الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. We continue our discussion. Maybe 2 weeks ago we discussed about video number 5. We discussed about one of the ideologies used by some people who do not want to be replaced as a committee members in some mosques. And we said that they are using fear and sending some violent messages to the public in order to show them that actually, they are there to check mosques' issues, but others do not have the right to do so. So today we may discuss also another ideology, but before going to such kind of ideology, let me remind you that actually nowadays you can hear from different parts of Japan that the number of mosques is increasing. But the problem we have here is that we don't pay attention about how to use the mosques efficiently. It means we are building mosques, but to pay much attention about how we will be able to have a good communities and how to have somehow a reliable constitution and etc. We don't pay much attention about that. We are like people, for example, who are paying attention about building a better soccer ground, but we don't pay attention about the players, whether we have good players or not, whether we have a good coach or not, and how can we have a strong team when we are doing the games. But we are paying attention about the ground and the clothes of the players and etc. Though the time of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Medina, masjid was just very simple masjid, but the job itself of masjid was really the most important, and that's why Islam reached us today. Islam did not reach today because we had a very wonderful masjid in Medina, but the work of mosque itself was very well managed, and the people themselves, got a good education, and finally they could work better for da'wah. This is just a simple introduction, but today's discussion is about one big problem for some people who may do da'wah or activists in mosques are facing, what is called in Arabic ujub. Ujub means self-appreciation, or you are pleasing yourself, or you feel like you admire yourself. You feel that you are one of the best among Muslims through, for example, praying 5 times a day on time, or you are fasting Thursdays and Thursdays and Mondays, and you are fasting also 13 and 14 and 15 days of the Islamic calendar for a month for Islamic calendar, or you, for example, you are praying tahajjud, you are memorizing Quran. So when you are doing those kind of activities, you may have this kind of self, appreciation that I am the best, I am good, and this, and others, do not have a right, for example, to deal with some issues related to mosques. This way of thinking may lead a person to feel that the way he thinks, that is the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes. And finally, he may be, we don't say arrogant, but he may feel like he's the one who has right to do this, to do that in a Muslim association or mosque, and others do not have. And this appreciation, self-appreciation, or a person may have, is very dangerous, and this is what met shaitan. When shaitan said, and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him in Surah Al-Baqarah and other verses in various chapters, shaitan said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked to him to bow on Adam, he said, "Ana khayrun minhu." I am better than him. I am the best. How come? أنا خير منه خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. So shaitan, with some kind of self appreciation, he refused Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. So this attitude, or if you start to think this way, you may be the worst among the community or among individuals, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may put you in a very critical such situation as Iblis was. So some people, they may refuse to be replaced in committee. They may feel like others cannot do the job, and most they don't trust others because they have self-appreciation. This way of thinking is the source of many problems Muslim Ummah are facing today. One of the problems caused by this kind of people who may think or who may appreciate themselves because they are doing some Islamic practices is that they are the cause of making other Muslims atheists. Some Muslims, they go to mosques and they try to be better when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, فَفِرُّوا إِلَى اللَّهِ إِنِّي لَكُمْ مِنْهُ نَذِيرٌ مُبِينٌ. In a place like Japan, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks you, go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where you will go? You will go to mosques, and you will feel like the best place you have to go in order to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mosque. And you go to mosque, and you started to see such kind of attitude, and then you started to be confused, and you started to feel like why, you started to compare between mosque organization and non-Muslim organization, and then you started to feel like I went to different organizations which are doing cultural activities and other maybe student activities, and life is very easy. People are changing committee easily, and people are respecting each other. People feel very happy. But when I come to masjid, I found the situation is very rigid, and I find like always fear and shouting and all of these problems, and that's mean Islam itself is a problem. And if you try to argue that, you have to be very careful, compare between Islam and Muslim, that kind of argument doesn't work. We Muslims, we keep arguing this one many times by saying that Islam is a good religion, but people are those who are bad. The question will come and say, so that means you want to say that Islam is not practical, because if Islam is practical, we should see people who are practicing Islam, who study Islam, who know Islam, and then they show such kind of attitude that show as we to be like them. But if, for example, people are reading Quran, memorize Quran, they become imam, and they read Quran during Ramadan, and then we saw them talk a lot about Islam in Friday prayer, make a long khutbah, and etc. But when we see the attitude is such way, that means there is something wrong in Islam, and then they finally become atheists. This problem about some Muslims to become atheists, some kind of bad situations are happening in some Muslim countries, especially Arab countries nowadays. I want to emphasize this. One of the reasons people are going to mosques, and then they saw such kind of rigid atmosphere and bad attitude with people who are memorizing Quran and who are reading Hadith, etc. And one of the problems caused by this way of thinking of the people who think like that is the different groups we are, assisting nowadays. Some people, they may make some groups, and then and they may pray together, and they make some kind of ibadah, and they started to have this kind of self-satisfaction as a good Muslims, and they started to feel like others are not good Muslims, and finally started to do some violent things by the name that they want to make Muslim, better Muslims. They want to establish Islamic atmosphere, and they started to be angry against everybody and started to behave badly. So why? This is satisfaction, and the self-satisfaction when it is inside of a person who has little knowledge. Like, sometimes you may see some people are making imam or in mosque, but actually their knowledge is very, very little, and you can easily evaluate this if you see the behavior itself. So in that case, how to say, these people, we say in Arabic, jahilun mutamassiku. Jahilun mutamassiku, jahiluna mutamassikun. People who are practicing Islam, but because of the knowledge, of Islam, the purpose of Islamic rules and regulations is little, could not reach, enough in their heart, they started to have such kind of bad behavior, and finally, because of the ignorance, they started to have this kind of self-appreciation. But a person who is knowledgeable or who understands the goal of Islam, when he's practicing more Islam, he became more humble, he became more worried, and he became more, how to say, flexible and very reliable, and etc. So this is a sign of a person who may have who may practice Islam properly, and the other one, the one who have self satisfaction, is a person who is following Iblis, as we said before, that Iblis says, "Ana khayrun minhu khalaqta," I am better than this. So people who have this kind of mentality that I'm better than that, are very, very in a very critical situation, and they are the cause of many problems. Actually, I don't have enough time, but I just remember one story 4 years ago, when some people used to accuse other people that they don't eat halal food, they eat in everything, and we are the one halal. They feel that they are the only ones who think about halal, but others do not halal. This is the way of Iblis, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, of course, doesn't like such kind of people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala may guide all of us to not have such kind of self appreciation, and to be more humble. And when you have been leading a mosque for 1 or 2 years, please accept to step down and to be replaced by other people, and stop this kind of self appreciation that you are the one who are appropriate to deal Muslims but others not. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.